welcome to our May Founders Deep Dive. So, this is where Ty and I take a step back and dive into real conversations around the journeys behind building, what it looks like, what it feels like, and everything that comes with it. Before we jump in, make sure you're subscribed and signed up for our newsletter so you never miss an episode. Okay. Also, and as always, a quick heads up, our next spotlight is Sunday, May 31st at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, we're featuring founders and leaders and the whys behind their brands. So to start us off, hi, I'm Starah Dixon, founder of Mitsu's, a space designed for collectors to discover original, story-driven pieces by emerging artists and studios. At its core, Mitsu's is about finding work that speaks to you and building a collection that reflects exactly who you are. And now on to my Tai Tai.
Hi everyone, my name is Tysheda, known as the Signature Global Experiences Architect. I help founders create transformational retreats, brand experiences, and strategy for those ready to expand their brand presence and peace. So, for those of you guys who are returning, welcome. And for those who are new, we're excited to have you here. So, this is our founders deep dive. We really go into different conversations and topics that come across us, some that things that you guys drop to us, and other ones are things that we have found when we talk to founders of all industries. So, we wanted to start this conversation with something that a lot of founders are chasing, but many are actually questioning that ideal of balance, because on paper it sounds good, but balance your life, your business, your time. But in reality, most of us are trying to keep everything afloat, calling it balance. And the truth is, what really works in one season may not work in another. What feels aligned at one moment can feel overwhelming in the next. And so today, we really want to unpack that. Is balance even real? And if it's not, what actually works instead when you're building a life and a business at the same time?
Okay, so to open it up, definitely one of these therapy words. One of the things that we end up knowing about balance is that really what it is about is control, right? So, especially as founders and as building out like different systems and things of that nature, it is one of those things that is just innately hard for us. So, the way that I look at balance is not controlling everything because to me, there's no way to ever basically actually have full balance, especially with the ebbs and flows of life. But for me, it's to define certain pinpoints and criteria that I actually like feel would fit my lifestyle a lot better, right? And so for me, especially when it comes to business, that has always been one of my like goals, like making sure that my brand, my business fits my lifestyle like throughout. Outside of just as we already know with Mitsu's, when it comes to art, the way that this looks like for me is with regards to business, it's I have my little list down. Let me tell you, it's basically having set times and adhere to it, or knowing when to like change out my times, or focusing on how to actually execute plans and try my best because I love things looking as perfect as possible, but like to know when something is not actually necessary and when something is just inside of my mind. So some of the ways that I do that is actually like writing out task lists and knowing just how to prioritize that, or setting up like different blocks of when I'm not picking up like a phone call, which I rarely do anyway, but or an email. So that would be how I would say like I find balance within business. It's just like different ways for me to be able to reset throughout whatever I'm doing. Now, I would say when it comes to my personal life, it's no shocker. Some of it is definitely having time to hike with my family, ideally at minimum like twice a week, even though I love to like find different adventures in different places. Basically being able to read at least like 2 books a month, only because I love seeing different perspectives, and I feel that a lot of them have helped me become a better entrepreneur too, or knowing what is important to me as that. I don't necessarily go towards self-help books, but it's still that can help you apply things to real life. I would say this one is not really by always by choice. I don't mind it though. Talking to my parents daily. Like if I don't get to that, we already know that my mom or my dad or my bro will definitely send a message being like, what is going on? I don't worry, I'm about to like close up my runoff tie so that you can have the tie too. But I would say like definitely like making time to catch up with friends. Like for example, I know that we have like a pretty damn good system, especially because we'll also like if we can't write to each other, whenever we're able to, we'll always voice note each other random stuff, whether we're just like, oh my God, like today's Tuesday, can you believe it? You know, like and we're just like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like
It's like, okay, bye. Talk to you later.
yeah, like basically. And just being able to just have time to chill. So like those would be like my essentials when it comes to balancing because I already know that I wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. But yes, I'm sorry, my dear. You're
No, you're
how
good.
about for you?
I guess for me, balance, I guess my business and my personal life, I kind of balance similar because, as everyone or most people do know, I'm very organized and I don't think I could function without being organized. So,
Mhm.
everything I do, I make time for, I have block off. Now, I will say, and I use the word balance, but obviously sometimes depending on who you're talking to, balance is a little controversial because some people use it, some people don't. But
Mhm.
whichever, however you use your time to be able to have both of it, whether it's business, family, life, to be able to work it all that works for you, because obviously
Yep.
everyone's a little bit different. But for me, I probably definitely would say is, and I want to say I learned it more now than I did in the beginning of my business owner journey because at first my business pretty much consumed most of what I did.
Right.
And it's like trying to say, oh, I'm going to have me time or self care time. Oh, okay, I didn't get to it. That's all right. I'll do it later. And then later kept to the next month. And the next month, you know how that story goes. So definitely, I definitely will say that the balance for me with my business is really prioritizing what's important. So I have certain days that I do certain things. And then
Mhm.
obviously I have certain things that are important, whether they're emails, reaching out, or even supplier calls, or just some things that have to be done each day. But I block off my time. So I know this is the stuff that I have to get done. And then I also do have kind of like, I say like a to-do list where it just gives me general things that I have to get done. But I really emphasize the importance of reality to-do list, not
Mhm.
just to-do list. So I don't jam pack my to-do list because the reality of it is nine times ten I probably will not get to everything. So I
Yeah.
don't like to overextend myself. I like to be a little bit more like realistic with my time. If I get through it, oh, that's great. Let me see what I got to do tomorrow. If I have time, I can check it off, but I don't want to put too much on there because it gets a little overwhelming because then you feel
Yeah.
like you have so much to do and you already jam packed your tomorrow with
Mhm.
whatever you have to do. So then by the time you realize it, you're like, there's no way I'm going to get all this done. And
Mhm.
I also give realistic expectations, even when it comes to my clients, even when it comes to the work that I'm doing, because I would rather me be able to give them the turnaround time based off of actual things versus me trying to rush it because I still want them to get the quality, the same experience. And I don't want it to be too much stressful on me or even my team. So I
Right.
really try to do that within business. And that's really key because being transparent, communicating, being honest, and being intentional are very important because it helps keep them flow. And sometimes if things happen, like if the system goes down, technology, we love it, but sometimes it don't always work to our advantage. So
Mhm.
I'm also honest with that. Like, hey, heads up, there were some technical difficulties, but definitely tomorrow you'll be getting X, Y, and Z. On the personal side, I definitely have gotten a lot better with making sure prioritizing self-care. So whether that's spa days, whether that's just time taken away for, me to have things that's fun for me. And that includes like whether it's watching movies, hanging out with my family, or even
Right.
with my friends, like all of those are things that really I kind of almost say it resets my brain because
Mhm.
it kind of takes yourself outside of business, outside of professional mode. You're strictly just being able to relax. I love when the weather gets nice because I can definitely do walks and stuff like that at the park. I love the breeze. I love all of that. Not a big fan of too hot of weather. That's a little bit,
Mhm.
we always have our discussions about that. Like I like in that in between, but when it gets too hot, I'm like, ooh, I may have to pass on that. And then I'm like, so definitely all of that. But it's really about what makes the most sense. And I definitely want to say that, especially for me, like people look at my calendar and they're like, wow. Like you like everything's in there. And I do it for a few reasons. I do it because it kind of keeps me on track too, because time goes by so fast and we lose some of like the most important time because we're so focused on one thing. So I know when my calendar alerts me, I'm like, okay, even if I'm a few minutes late from what I'm supposed to do, like for my next block, I know
Mhm.
that I still have to get to that. So it helps me.
Right.
So whether that is me having to take time out for myself, whether me is just relaxing and taking a little rest, I know that because it helps me mentally. Now, don't get me wrong, this didn't start off like this at all. Like in the beginning, what I'm talking about now, I would probably be like, huh, yeah, how do you expect me to do that and run a business at the same time? Yes, that part. But I have learned though, it's very important because it helps me be sane, but it also helps me be able to pour into my brand when, when things go crazy. I don't feel like I'm burnt out. I don't feel like I'm
Right.
stressed, overwhelmed, because I was able to take that time for myself, whether that is stepping away, whether it's even also putting your phone on do not disturb so you don't get the messages, the emails, because that's when you're off of the clock. Like you're literally off of the clock. That's your time. You don't have to be on 24/7. And also sometimes you have to lean on the part of your team or part of the stuff that works when you're not working, because that's why you have it there, so that you're not always on, because being always on for your own business, it will drain you really quickly.
Yeah, and I agree where these are things that I think are just like fundamental learning like curves for just anybody in general, especially as entrepreneurs, especially because the starting time within entrepreneurship is you wearing multiple hats. And there is no way for you to really know that you're supposed to chill out until, for example, you notice it in other ways, whether it's like you find that like you're easily frustrated, you find that you don't want to necessarily do certain things certain days, or you literally are like so burnt out that you're just not able to just be you, you
Yes.
know? And like it is one of the reasons too that like we already know, like I'll always champion creating SOPs and also knowing and learning how to delegate things.
Yeah, big time.
Because yeah, like I would say it's interesting how like I had to learn this because, and this is something that I've been open about, like that I'm learning the opposite end of it, where professionally, I would say for the most part, I've always been good at like at least like delegating out and just trusting that the people that are able to do things like would be able to take care of it. Where I'm like, okay, you're better at this, let's do it. But now I'm going into the other side of things where I'm like, no, I want to learn from like the start how to get from point A to point B so that I can learn it, like by myself and stuff. And even within that, again, it's like within the like creating the SOPs, one, it's easy for you to basically hand off everything later because you know how to do it from the like ground up. But also, I find that it's easier for you to also see where the non-balance points come in, meaning like like how many emails would it take for you to start getting overwhelmed, or how many
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z's have to happen, things of that nature. So
Yeah.
yeah, just
No,
wanted.
I definitely do agree with you, because I feel like in the start for me, and I was kind of almost like the opposite of you. So in the start for me, like I'm very much like, I'm not going to just tell. I'm just going to do it because it'll be quicker, it'll be
Yeah.
easier. So like it was wearing multiple hats and doing multiple hats at the same time,
Yeah.
because giving it to someone else, okay, I got to explain to them what happens if they don't do it for the same quality that I like X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
So it took some time for me to get comfortable with me
Mhm.
being like, okay, I need to release some things, because some people, I may be able to do it, but by the time I do it, learn it, and have to like execute it myself, I could have had someone else do it, and I could have actually used my time, spending more time at what I'm good at and what I can do, versus spending hours and days doing something that, this is why people are, this is their skill. Like, why
Yeah.
not give it to someone who's skillful at it and let me do what I do? That's why it is. And once I actually got there, it was like a weight because it was like, oh my God, like I have this person that can do this, and then
Yeah.
I can do what I'm good at. So it wasn't as much I was doing. And it's very important because, again, in the beginning, not only are you wearing multiple hats, but it's your baby. So you're like, I want to
Yeah.
make sure that people are doing it with the same quality, same pride, all of that stuff. And also wanting to make sure that they're treating it the way, even when it has to do with responding to emails, talking to clients, like you want to make sure that they're doing it the way you would,
Hmm.
because if not, it's not only just a bad look on your brand, but you care because you're like, wait, these are my clients. Like, like I
Hmm.
would never, you want to make sure that they're a representation of not only you, but also your brand at the same
Yeah,
time.
but that's why I arc back to the whole like SOP thing because it is a guide to how I expect you to like
Yes.
do, like do something.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like even within creating guides, of course, it's really matters the quality of the person. So
Yes.
I like
Oh, big time. Yes.
completely like no
Yeah.
matter which way we're coming from, like the angle,
Yes.
it really is like putting a lot of trust in that person and being
Yes.
like, okay, like you're going
Yeah.
to execute and help me out with that.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And again, just like you said, with even with the SOP, a lot of times too, as your business grows and as your business transition, that gets updated at the same
Oh,
time too, because
yeah.
it's like, because how you started, you're like, wow, this is so much easier way to do
Yeah.
it, and it takes less time, it's more efficient. Let's update this so that it can. So it's not like once you create it, it's done deal. Like it's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna be honest with you, like if that's the case, you're doing it wrong. So
1 billion. I just wanted to throw in this
yeah,
little like dime inside of there.
no,
But one thing that I definitely had learned later, which I should have learned before, but make sure you have the original date. There's a reason why a lot of them did have it. And I
yeah,
was like, okay, there we go. But like the original date of creation and then
yeah.
the last updated
Updated, yes.
so that you keep track of it. Because other than that, you're going to find yourself making the same file over and over and over. And it's just like, for what? Like,
Mhm.
update
You just
that
give
one
yourself
thing.
more work because you know.
Yeah. And I feel like too, when it comes to even personal, I feel like that's always going to be an ever growing thing because even at
Hmm.
different stages of your life,
Yes.
everything is, like different as far as like
Yeah.
what balance means. Because,
Hmm.
for example, we might see somebody with like 5 kids and
Yes.
it's like their
Hmm.
version of balance is like completely different as,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes.
So
And that's why I
I don't
said it
know.
all depends on like what part of your life you're in, what part of your
Yeah.
business is in it. And it's about do and I always tell people too, I'm like, you're doing what works for you.
Yep.
The biggest thing of us talking to so many founders and talking to so many people is, don't try to compare yourself to someone else. Don't try to
At
be like,
all.
oh, well, what they're doing is working, so I need to do what they're doing because clearly they must doing it right. When on the other side of it, their head is exploded because they're like, I can't figure this
Yeah.
out. So it's like the
Mhm.
comparison option, like you have to do what works for you, because 9 times out of 10, whatever's working for you is something totally different, but it's working for someone else, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can't try to be like, oh, well, I got to do exactly what they're doing because they got it figured out.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, yeah, they may have it figured out, but who knows how many transitions and how many ways
Yes.
did they have to get there to get to the point where they're like, okay, I have my time to take care of myself, my family, work on
Mhm.
my business, and also be able to delegate to my team at the same time.
Mhm. And even within that, like I feel like the reason why you don't want to compare yourself is because you don't know the person's why.
That,
Like, and I feel
yes.
like that's
Mm-hmm.
like the most important thing is
Mm-hmm.
why are you moving that way? Why did
Mm-hmm.
you send the email that, like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they
Yes.
most likely have like as you were saying before, like
Mm-hmm.
a whole bunch of stories of things that went wrong. And maybe a lot of the things that went wrong for them are not even things that went wrong for you. So it's like, now what are we doing? Like, you know what I mean? So I think that that's also one of the reasons why I love that we do go into like the stories behind the brands whenever we do
Mm-hmm.
talk to founders,
Yes.
is because they're actively telling you their
Yes.
whys for things,
Mm-hmm.
and even within that, you always hear everyone talking to you about like the
Mm-hmm.
struggles that they went through, like
Yes.
how they went from like how they're trying to help you avoid like
Uh-huh.
going into the same situations
Yes.
too. So,
And I will say one last thing before I say my last thoughts, but I definitely say that, and I love how you touch on that by like the stories behind the brand, because that also really makes a difference for me, because
yeah.
a lot of times, especially in the market today and how the market has been, like I'm very intentional about whether it's supporting small businesses, supporting anybody who's it's not just someone who's trying to make money. Like it's not someone who's just throwing up something product together, don't care about the quality, don't care about if it's fall apart by the time you receive it, don't care
Mhm.
about the little things. It's really about like what the amount of work and quality that they put into it. It makes a difference, and that's who I want to support and I want to have other people support and things that matter because it makes a difference. Like we talk to so many founders, so many brilliant people who are doing some remarkable things, and it's like they probably barely hit like 5% of the world that probably has seen what they're creating.
Right.
And that's the goal. The goal is to see their product, their services, but also hear the story behind it because some of these stories are remarkable. You're just like, wow,
They really
you
are.
really turned a particular situation and you built something that most people probably was thinking about or thought about but never actually went through the work and the years to actually put it together to build something that you're so proud about that really helps so many people.
Yeah. And heavy on even within those stories, the amount of stories that we've seen from people who've built great brands under the like very unfortunate circumstances too.
Mhm.
Again, going back to like as you were saying before, where it's like you don't know what that person's been through. Yes, you appreciate what they came to like give
Yes.
the world, but it's kind of like some of these stories you're just kind of like, "Oh, I'm good. You
It,
you got this." You
exactly.
know what
And
I mean?
a lot of them also have a deeper meaning behind it, which
Yeah.
you don't really think about until you hear it. And then you're like, wow, first off, I never thought about it that way. Second off, you're like, your story actually made me see it a different way. So I may have seen the product, you may have seen their service, but by the time you hear it, you're like, wow, I actually never thought about it that way. But this is making me actually really want to look more into it because they have a point and they have something that really touches home. And that's why a lot of these founders that we've come in contact, like, it's amazing and we're just like, oh my god, like, wow. But you would never know it just looking at them or just seeing it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not until they're actually telling their story to you're like, wow, there's all there. It's and you can tell the passion behind it, which is why we appreciate them so much because like some of the people that we're working with, that we have worked with, it's just you're just like, wow, you're like you and they're like genuinely like intentional with everything that they're doing. So that's what we're it's just amazing overall.
It really is. And I would say at least like 95% because like it's fine if it's not because that's how I started health values. But anyway, at least 95% of those people, I would say it's that's like I know that we hear it often, but it is that thing of they're solving problems that they were having for themselves, you know? And so a lot of the times, actually, I even say us too, but obviously, but it is one of those things where there's a reason, like we were saying, like there's a reason for each thing that they're building out. And that's why anybody who wants to build out, do it, you know? And maybe you might not be able to see linearly like why you're doing something, but at some point it's all going to click, you know. I was gonna say it's
Yeah.
gonna click, Steven, but like it's gonna click and make sense.
Yeah.
So if today's episode made you pause and reflect, don't ignore that. Just do your best to find balance, no matter what it looks like to you, and also just make sure that it's authentic to you and sustainable for you. So while you're here, though, here's our little ask. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and let us know which topics or founders you'd love to see featured next on Authentic Ambitions. And as always, until next time, keep building, keep growing, and stay inspired. Bye.